never will remember my name.
Oh! So will every parent you buried.
The shot cracked across the pool like thunder. For a split second, everything froze. The ripples stilled, the air held its breath, and the scent of chlorine turned metallic. My little girl's pink float drifted sideways, the echo still ringing off the water. Patricia Langford stood at the far edge, gun trembling in her manicured hand, sunlight flashing off the barrel like a mirror reflecting hell. Someone screamed. It might have been me. The board chair didn't lower the weapon. Her crimson blazer, immaculate a moment ago, quivered in the humid air. "It was an accident," she barked, voice brittle and sharp. But the tremor in her wrist betrayed her. The neighbors by the fence shrank back, phones frozen halfway to their faces, unsure whether to film or flee. My knees hit the pavement. "Call 911, I shouted, pressing my hands against the wound blooming beneath my daughter's shoulder. Her small body jerked. The water on her skin turned red, spreading like ink in sunlight. Somewhere behind me, a lifeguard sobbed. The clipboard queen muttered, "She shouldn't have been past the boundary line." Her words died under the sound of my wife's scream. I looked up. "You shot a 5-year-old." Her mouth opened, then shut. She clung to that pistol the way bureaucrats cling to policy, white-knuckled, terrified of admitting fault. Sirens in the distance. 3 minutes, maybe less. That was the moment something inside me snapped, not into rage, but clarity. I had spent 12 years in the Air Force teaching men to stay calm under fire. Now, the enemy was a woman in heels pretending this was procedure. If you've ever seen someone hide behind authority while the innocent bleed, hit subscribe now, I whispered. Stay with me. Because what happens next changes everything. I tore my shirt into strips, staunching the blood. "Hold on, baby, hold on." The enforcer in crimson stumbled backward, dropping the pistol into the grass. She stared at her reflection in the pool, then at me, as if realizing she couldn't command the water to forget. "Put your hands where I can see them," I barked. Training took over. My voice carried the kind of authority rules could never manufacture. She obeyed, shaking. Neighbors whispered. One said, "She's the HOA president." Another, "That's Ethan Graves, the engineer, right?" Engineer. That word cut deeper than I expected. I built the neighborhood's digital gate system last spring, the one that logged every entry, every sound, every second, including gunshots. The officer of rules tried to step closer. "Let me explain. Don't move." Her heels froze mid-click. She looked at the crimson spreading through the concrete and whispered, "I didn't mean..." "Intent doesn't reverse consequence," I said. The wail of sirens swelled until it drowned the birds. 2 squad cars skidded to a stop beyond the chain-link fence. The first officer through the gate saw the weapon on the ground, then the child in my arms, and called for medical. Patricia Langford's voice cracked. "I was enforcing safety protocols." "Safety?" I spat. "You turned a rule into a bullet." The tyrant in heels crumbled to her knees as paramedics rushed past. One of them pulled my daughter from my arms, working frantically. I followed every motion, the compressions, the oxygen mask, the trembling hands. Time dissolved into siren light and pounding hearts. When they lifted her onto the stretcher, her eyes fluttered once, faint as a candle in wind. "Daddy," she whispered. "I'm here," I said. "I'm right here." Then the paramedic shouted, "Pulse returning." Relief hit me so hard I almost collapsed. Across the pool, the clipboard queen hid her face behind her hands. Her lipstick had smeared, her voice was gone. Officers cuffed her gently, as if decency could disguise the horror. As they led her away, she turned once. "You don't understand," she murmured. "The board will fix this." I stood, soaked, trembling, blood drying against my chest. "No," I said. "I will. Because when rules kill children, someone has to rewrite them." The hospital lights never blinked. They just hummed, a sterile, endless sound that made grief feel mechanical. I stood outside the trauma ward, shirt stiff with chlorine and blood, staring through the glass as doctors fought to keep my daughter breathing. My wife clutched my arm. "They said she's stable," she whispered, voice splintered by disbelief. "Stable means alive, right?" I wanted to believe it, but the monitors kept reminding me that life could vanish between one beep and the next. Down the corridor, a police officer adjusted his radio. "The shooter's already in custody," he said to another. Name's Patricia Langford, HOA president. That title made my stomach twist. Not killer, not criminal, just president. As if paperwork softened what she'd done. Minutes dragged into hours. When the surgeon finally emerged, his face was blank with exhaustion. She's alive, he said, but the bullet missed her lung by less than an inch. Relief hit like collapse. My knees gave out. My wife sobbed into my shoulder. Behind us, a nurse whispered, "They're already calling it an accident." I turned. "Who is?" She hesitated. "The HOA board. They issued a statement online, said it was a tragic misunderstanding during enforcement of safety protocols." The clipboard queen hadn't even waited for dawn to rewrite the truth. By morning, her version was everywhere. Local news banners, neighborhood group chats, carefully worded phrases. Community leader shocked by pool incident. Not child shot, not power abused, just sanitized tragedy. I scrolled through the updates, each headline colder than the last. The officer of rules was still controlling the narrative even while sitting in a cell. She had lawyers, influence, and a board, terrified of losing their queen. I needed to breathe. The vending machine down the hall reflected my face, unshaven, hollow-eyed, something unrecognizable behind the exhaustion. I pressed my forehead to the glass. My reflection stared back like it wanted answers. That was when a man approached, a county detective in a wrinkled suit. "Mr. Graves," he said, "we've taken your statement. I'm sorry for what happened, but you should know. Her attorney's claiming negligence, not intent." "She aimed at a child," I said. "She claims she slipped. Did the gun slip too?" He didn't answer, just sighed and walked away. Later that afternoon, I saw it, a white envelope taped to the hospital room door. HOA, seal embossed in gold. Inside, an official notice. Violation, 23B, endangerment and disruption of community harmony, signed by Acting Chair, Willow Bay Board. They were fining me for the incident that nearly killed my daughter. I laughed once, the kind of laugh that breaks into pieces halfway out. My wife covered her mouth, trembling. "They can't do that," she said. "They already did." The enforcer in crimson might have been handcuffed, but her rules were still alive, self-replicating, heartless. That night, I sat beside my daughter's bed. Tubes, wires, the rhythmic hiss of the ventilator. All the instruments of survival. She looked so small under the white blanket, her fingers twitching with dreams she couldn't finish. I whispered, "Daddy's not done yet." The television above her bed replayed the news. Patricia Langford, leaving the precinct in silence, escorted past reporters. She didn't cry. She didn't look sorry. The tyrant in heels moved like a woman, confident she'd be back behind her desk by Monday. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the HOA portal, the same one she ruled like a fortress. But I'd built its security infrastructure last year. Every file, every message, every access log still carried my watermark. She thought she owned the rules. She forgot who wrote the code. That realization burned away the fog. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about exposure. The board wanted silence. I'd give them signal. As I typed, a faint voice broke through the quiet. "My daughters." "Daddy." I froze. "I'm here, baby." Her eyelids fluttered. "The lady in red," she said sorry. Tears blurred everything. "She will be," I whispered, "because Patricia Langford built her empire on fear, and tomorrow I'd start pulling bricks." Morning sunlight spilled through the blinds, cutting stripes across the hospital floor. I hadn't slept. My daughter's breathing was steadier now, but every exhale sounded like a reminder. I was running out of time to stop the board from burying what Patricia Langford had done. By the time I stepped outside, the news vans were gone, replaced by silence and clipped hedges that looked too perfect to be real. The neighborhood felt staged, like grief, had been photoshopped out of it. A single figure stood by the community mailbox, short black hair, khaki uniform, HOA badge half hidden under a jacket. She turned when she saw me. "Mr. Graves," she said carefully, "I shouldn't be talking to you." "Then why are you?" I asked. "Laura Chen." I recognized her, the HOA's safety officer, usually seen trailing behind Patricia like a shadow. But today her posture was different, shoulders hunched, eyes scanning the street as if the trees had microphones. "She told me not to," Laura said. "The board chair. She said contact with you could be considered witness tampering. I almost laughed. She's in jail, not the throne room. Laura flinched. You don't understand. Even from there, she's still giving orders. They're calling it temporary remote leadership. Emails come with her signature. Same phrasing, same control. The clipboard queen didn't need a boardroom. She'd built her own bureaucracy of fear. Did you see what happened that day? I asked. Her gaze dropped to the pavement. I was by the maintenance shed. I heard the shout, then the gun. When I ran over, she was already talking to the security feed. Editing it? She said, delete from timestamp 1402 to 1405. I asked why. She told me it was a malfunction, but there was no glitch. I saw the file, crystal clear. My pulse kicked hard. You have access? She hesitated, glancing toward the row of windows that hid the HOA office. Not anymore. She revoked my clearance 10 minutes after the police left. The officer of rules never left loose ends. Laura rubbed her wrist, where her badge strap had rubbed her skin raw. She said if I ever mentioned it, my certification would disappear, that I'd violated confidentiality protocols. Fear rolled off her like heat. I lowered my voice. You know what she did, and you know it's wrong. Help me prove it. I can't. Her whisper cracked. She'll ruin me. She already has. That landed. Her jaw clenched. A tear slipped before she could stop it. For a moment, I saw the war inside her. Duty versus conscience. She's not who she pretends to be, Laura said finally. Patricia's obsessed with control. Everything in Silver Bay runs through her. Permits, fines, even emergency response codes. She once told me, order matters more than outcomes. The tyrant in heels had weaponized perfection. I reached into my jacket and pulled a folded photograph. My daughter, grinning in her pink goggles, taken the morning of the incident. Order didn't save her, I said. Laura's breathing hitched. You don't have to show me that. Yes, I do, because you were there, because you can stop her from rewriting it. She turned away, hand trembling on the mailbox handle. You think justice scares her? It doesn't. What scares Patricia Langford is losing relevance. She'll burn this community before letting you win. She already started the fire, I said quietly. You can choose which side of it you stand on. The silence stretched. Somewhere a lawnmower started, the ordinary sound of denial. Then Laura looked back at me, eyes red but steady. I'll think about it, she said. Check the maintenance archive. Sometimes things don't delete like she thinks. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed. The screen flashed board priority call. P. Langford. She stared at it, terrified. Then she silenced it and walked away. Watching her go, I realized fear wasn't fading from Silver Bay. It was evolving. As I turned toward my truck, a new notification lit up my phone. Unauthorized login detected. HOA network access by user. L. Chen admin. She'd just taken the first step, and Patricia Langford would feel it before sunset. By dawn, Silver Bay didn't look like a neighborhood anymore. It looked like a stage set for obedience. Vans rolled through the cul-de-sac in perfect formation, each stamped with the HOA crest. Integrity, order, progress. Patricia Langford might have been locked in a county cell, but her signature still marched across every clipboard in town. I stepped onto my porch just as one of the inspectors aimed a tablet at my doorframe. Routine safety review, he said, not meeting my eyes. Whose routine? I asked. The board's, he murmured, as if that answered everything. Across the street, neighbors pretended to prune hedges while watching. Fear had become the new neighborhood association fee. Everyone paid it. By mid-morning, the board chair had issued a community-wide notice, emergency compliance audit following recent incidents. Her wording was immaculate, legal enough to sound necessary, vague enough to justify anything. The enforcer in crimson didn't need to show up to make her presence felt. She existed in every rule she'd written. I called Henry Cole, the precinct liaison handling the case. She's orchestrating inspections from jail, I said. He sighed through static. We can't prove she's sending the orders herself. Every email ends with her initials. Initials aren't evidence, Mark. Tell that to the child she shot. There was a pause. Careful, he said finally. She still has friends in city code. Then the line clicked dead. Inside, my daughter slept on the couch, tiny chest rising beneath a blanket patterned with cartoon whales. Each breath reminded me why silence wasn't an option. A knock jolted me. 3 inspectors stood there, one recording video. "Entry inspection," the lead said. "We received a complaint of unauthorized modifications." I laughed. "Modifications? My kid was shot at your pool." "Procedure, sir." Behind them, a 4th figure appeared. Sunglasses, crimson jacket, posture like a command. Patricia Langford herself. For a moment, disbelief rooted me to the floor. She wasn't supposed to be free. "Early release," she said, as if reading my mind. "Cooperation agreement. I'm still president until a board vote says otherwise." The clipboard queen brushed imaginary dust from her sleeve. "We're here to ensure community safety. After all, we wouldn't want another accident." Her emphasis on accident felt deliberate, a blade wrapped in politeness. "You almost killed my daughter," I said. "Mr. Graves, emotional exaggeration doesn't help anyone." I stepped closer. "You staged this inspection to intimidate me." She smiled thinly. "Intimidation implies fear. I prefer restoration of order." The inspectors filmed everything, pretending neutrality while capturing only her side of the narrative. One whispered, "Ma'am, should we mark this property for review?" "Of course," the officer of rules replied. "Documentation preserves truth." I watched her survey the porch, noting every imperfection like an executioner reading a list. Then she pointed toward the security camera above the garage. "Remove it," she told the inspector. "That's my property," I said. "It's attached to HOA infrastructure." "No, it's attached to my wall." Our eyes locked. For a heartbeat, the whole world shrank to that standoff. Authority versus ownership. Control versus conscience. She blinked first. "Fine," she said, "but I'll be including this defiance in my report." The tyrant in heels turned to leave, heels clicking like a metronome, counting down to the next violation. When the vans pulled away, the cul-de-sac erupted in whispers. Curtains fluttered. Messages pinged across neighborhood threads. Mark Graves under investigation. Board restoring peace. I went inside and opened my laptop. The HOA network pulsed with encrypted chatter. At its center, P. Langford remote node, active. Laura Chen's access note flashed beside it. System mirror still open. Proceed carefully. I typed a single line of code, rerouting the node's traffic through a private relay. On the screen, dozens of inspection videos streamed in real time. Every house, every family, under surveillance labeled compliance verification. The clipboard queen had built herself a digital panopticon. My daughter stirred, whispering in her sleep, "Is the red lady gone?" I knelt beside her. "Not yet, sweetheart." Because the board chair wasn't restoring order, she was testing obedience. And tomorrow, she'd learn what happens when the wrong man rewrites her code. By midnight, the house was silent except for the faint buzz of the router. I sat alone in the glow of the monitor, eyes locked on the HOA network map pulsing like a heartbeat. Each red dot was a home in Silver Bay, mine included. Every camera feed, every smart lock code, every inspection record funneled through one address, Langford admin root. The clipboard queen hadn't been managing a neighborhood, she'd been running. Surveillance. I ran a trace command. Within seconds, the data jumped across 3 proxy servers before landing in a secure archive labeled Compliance Central. But the signature key was hers, PL Auth 007. Even from a jail cell, Patricia Langford was watching us all. A noise behind me made me turn. My wife stood in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. "You're still at it," she whispered. "You haven't slept in 2 days." "Neither has she," I said. She stepped closer, reading the scrolling code. "What is all this?" "Proof," I answered. "Every violation she's issued, every inspection, every camera angle, they're all stored here. But there's something else underneath it, a pattern." The enforcer in crimson had turned data into discipline. Each homeowner had a risk index. Families who questioned her, higher scores. People who paid fines without argument, lower. She'd built an algorithm for control. My wife stared at the screen, horrified. "You're saying she grades people?" "I'm saying she decides who matters." I exported the logs, every byte encrypted with a private key I'd written years ago. The same system she'd once bragged about, repurposing. The irony made me grin. Outside, a car idled at the corner, headlights off, engine steady. I minimized the screen and peeked through the blinds, a dark SUV with tinted windows. I lifted my phone and zoomed in. HOA Security Division, of course. Moments later, my inbox pinged. A new message from Compliance Board. Subject, immediate notice. Mr. Graves, tampering with association infrastructure violates Federal Code 9-12. Cease and desist or further action will follow. She knew. I looked back at the screen, her network still open like a wound. You want a war, I muttered. You just found one. Before I could act, a call came through. Unknown ID, I answered, static. Then her voice, calm, deliberate, venom wrapped in silk. Mark, I see you've been exploring my system. Funny, I thought it was mine. The board chair laughed softly. Ownership is such a flexible term. You designed it for Silver Bay. I optimized it for compliance. You weaponized it. I civilized it, she countered. Do you know what chaos looks like without rules? It looks like you. I leaned closer to the mic. You shot a child, Patricia. Silence, then. Accidents happen when boundaries are ignored. My hands clenched. You call my daughter a boundary? No, Mark. I call her a reminder. People obey structure only when they see consequence. I hit record. Her arrogance would be her undoing. Tell me, Patricia, I said, do your inspectors know they're feeding a private server? Or are they just pawns in your redemption story? She smiled audibly through the line. You always misunderstood me. I don't need redemption. I need compliance. Sleep well, Mr. Graves. The call ended. My wife stared at me, pale. Did you get that? Every word. I uploaded the recording to a secure cloud drive, mirrored it twice. Then I called Laura Chen. No answer, just voicemail. Laura, it's Mark. Whatever you pulled from the maintenance archive, back it up. She's moving faster than we thought. The laptop chimed again. A new file had appeared on the screen. HOA Crisis Protocol active. Cameras reactivated, lenses swiveling toward my house one by one. I disconnected the modem, ripped the cord from the wall. Too late. Across the street, every porch light blinked in unison. Once, twice, then steady. A signal, her signal. The tyrant in heels didn't need weapons. She had infrastructure. I stood there in the dark, heartbeat syncing with the dying hum of the router. She thought fear would make me stop. She was wrong. Tomorrow I'd turn her network into evidence. And this time, the officer of rules would face her own. By sunrise, Silver Bay felt colder, like the whole subdivision had decided to hold its breath. I woke to the sound of silence. No Wi-Fi signal, no cell service, no power in half the house. My daughter's nightlight flickered, then went dark. The router's LED blinked a single red pulse, the same rhythm that used to mean system override. Patricia Langford's way of saying good morning. I rushed to the breaker panel. Nothing tripped. The power was fine. The blackout wasn't mechanical. It was digital. The clipboard queen had locked me out of my own infrastructure. On my phone screen, one message glowed through static. Access revoked. HOA property compliance block. Active. Every security camera, thermostat, even the garage door, all tied to the HOA grid I once built. I'd engineered convenience. She'd turned it into a cage. I called Henry, straight to voicemail, called Laura Chen, same result. When I finally stepped outside, a new sign hung from the lamppost. Community notice. Resident non-compliance under review. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains. No one waved, no one spoke. The enforcer in crimson had cut my lifeline, and the town obeyed her silence. At the curb, a maintenance truck idled. 2 workers were photographing my house. What are you doing? I called. Perimeter documentation, one muttered. Board directive. She's not the board anymore, I snapped. He looked up. She never stopped being the board. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You realize she's manipulating all of you, right? He hesitated, eyes darting to the badge on his shirt. I have a mortgage here, sir. Then he drove off. That was the genius of the officer of rules. She never needed loyalty, only dependency. Inside, I booted up my backup laptop, the one she didn't know existed. I tethered it through a portable hotspot and traced the blackout source. A string of code blinked across the console. Execute node lock. Graves property. The command originated from PL admin, time-stamped 2 hours. Earlier, I rerouted the signal through my own firewall and mirrored her command structure. If she wanted to shut me down, I'd let her. But through a decoy. Minutes later, I watched as her next move triggered. Automatic line process initiated. She was filing digital fines, thousands of dollars, for fabricated infrastructure tampering. The tyrant in heels wasn't just erasing my access, she was erasing my credibility. A knock rattled the door. 2 HOA compliance officers stood there, clipboards in hand. "Mr. Graves," the first one said, reading mechanically, "you're in violation of Section 14B, electrical modifications without board authorization." I laughed bitterly. She wrote Section 14B last week. "Then it's current law," he replied. Behind them, Patricia Langford appeared again. Immaculate crimson blazer, sunglasses reflecting my broken porch light. "Good morning, Mark," she said, voice smooth as glass. "I came personally to oversee the correction." "You mean the harassment?" She smiled. "Perspective is a privilege of the compliant." Her presence was surreal. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me under the restraining order, but she'd twisted the language again. Board inspection visit fell under official capacity. "The system's not yours," I said quietly. "It's mine. I built it." "And I perfected it," the board chair replied. "Your invention keeps this community alive." "Alive? You mean afraid?" "Fear," she said, "is proof people still care about order." I pulled my phone from my pocket. "You're trespassing." She tilted her head. "Am I, or are you obstructing regulation?" The inspectors waited for my reaction like soldiers awaiting command. I didn't give them one. I just whispered, "You're predictable, Patricia. That's your weakness." Her eyes flashed. "Predictability builds power. Chaos destroys it." She turned to leave, snapping her fingers for the team to follow. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the empty street. Once they were gone, I exhaled. Every neighbor door stayed shut. She'd made them prisoners without bars. Back inside, the backup monitor beeped. My decoy node had captured her signal pathway. GPS coordinates tracing directly to an off-site data hub 5 miles north. An old utility substation now leased to Silver Bay Security Services. Her hidden server. I smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you, Patricia," I muttered. "You just gave me your address." Tomorrow, I'd break into her digital fortress, and the clipboard queen would finally lose her crown. I waited until dusk before driving to the coordinates I'd traced. The address led to an abandoned power substation, wrapped in rusted fencing and fresh cameras, one of Patricia Langford's favorite contradictions. Decay dressed as control. A motion sensor blinked as I approached. The gate slid open on its own. She was expecting me. Inside, the hum of servers replaced the sound of wind. Racks lined the walls, each tagged "Property of Silver Bay Security Services." My stomach turned. She'd converted public safety equipment into private surveillance. The enforcer in crimson had built her empire from borrowed wires. "Mark!" I spun around. Laura Chen stood near the entrance, jacket half-zipped, eyes wide. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "She called me," she said softly. "Said if I didn't come, you'd destroy everything, including yourself. So you came to stop me?" "I came to confess." The clipboard queen's shadow hung between us, even when she wasn't there. Laura's hands trembled as she pulled a flash drive from her pocket. "This has every log entry since the pool shooting," she whispered. "Gate commands, security feeds, access timestamps. I was the one who rerouted the emergency signal that night." My pulse stopped. "You what?" "I thought the system was malfunctioning. Patricia told me to override manual control, to protect liability. I didn't realize it locked you out until..." Her voice cracked. "Until the sirens never came." I stared at the drive. "You held this for months?" "She threatened my job, Mark, my pension, my license. She said if I went public, she'd leak my disciplinary file from 2019. "The one that got sealed?" Laura nodded. "She somehow had it. That was Patricia Langford's genius. She never needed guns again. She used secrets." "She's still running the network," I said. "Even from jail. These servers feed directly into her home terminal." Laura's eyes darted toward the control panel. "Then let's end it." We crossed the room to the main console. Rows of monitors displayed every backyard in Silver Bay. Mothers folding laundry, children on swings, faces caught mid-laughter. Privacy turned into entertainment for the officer of rules. "Can you shut it down?" she asked. "I can trace the uplink and redirect it into a state database," I said. "Once mirrored there, she can't erase it without indicting herself." Laura hesitated. "That's illegal. So was shooting a 5-year-old. She swallowed hard. "Do it." I entered the admin path. A single warning flashed across the screen. Administrator PL online, remote connection active. Her voice echoed from the overhead speakers. "I wondered how long it would take you." Laura froze. "She's listening." "Always," Patricia said. "Officer Chen, you're making a very poor decision." "Not this time," Laura whispered. The tyrant in heels continued, voice smooth and venomous. "Do you know what happens to whistleblowers? They don't become heroes. They vanish into paperwork." I keyed the final command. "Then let's make your paperwork go public." A shrill alarm erupted. The servers began to dump data at light speed. Thousands of gigabytes streaming toward the state network. Patricia screamed through the intercom. "Stop it! You'll collapse the grid." "Good," I said. Maybe fear finally goes offline. Sparks burst from one of the panels. Laura shielded her face as smoke filled the air. "It's overloading. Pull the main breaker," I shouted. She yanked the lever. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the emergency lights glowed red, the color of Patricia Langford's rain. For a moment, the only sound was the cooling metal. Then my phone vibrated. A message appeared from an anonymous number. "Nice move, Sheriff. But you just declared war." Her digital signature followed. Crimson Laura stared at the screen. "She still has access." "Not for long," I said. "The upload's complete. The state has everything." Outside, sirens wailed. Not hers this time, but ours. Patrol cars pulled up, blue lights reflecting off the fence. Laura exhaled, tears streaking the soot on her face. "I'm turning myself in. It's the only way they'll believe you." I shook my head. "You already did the hardest part. You told the truth." As officers stormed the gate, I looked back at the servers, still glowing faintly like dying embers. The board chair's empire was burning from the inside, and I finally had proof strong enough to bring her down. By morning, Silver Bay had become a paradox, sunlight and dread sharing the same street. The headlines were everywhere. Sheriff leaks HOA surveillance network, community in shock. But the article didn't tell the truth. It said Patricia Langford's program had been misinterpreted. She'd framed the exposure as a cyber attack by a disgruntled ex-resident. That was her genius. She never fought facts. She rewrote their context. Henry met me at the diner outside town, laptop open between half-drunk coffees. "You lit a fire," he said. "The board chair's been on every talk show since sunrise. She's claiming this was all a test of digital resilience." I stared out the window at the clean horizon. "She's winning the narrative again." "She won't for long," Henry said. "The mirror upload you triggered is complete. The state's data verification starts at noon." The clipboard queen might have been fluent in manipulation, but code didn't lie. "Good," I said. "Then it's time to use her own spotlight." Henry frowned. "You mean public exposure?" "Exactly. Tonight." He hesitated. "You're about to poke the tyrant in heels in front of the entire state." "That's the point." We spent the next few hours mapping everything. How she accessed private property feeds, how she used AI scoring to flag non-compliant homeowners, how she blacklisted families who questioned her authority. Every keystroke of hers had become a breadcrumb. When the waitress refilled our cups, she whispered, "Are you the man from the news?" I nodded slightly. She said nothing else, but her hand trembled as she poured the coffee. Fear, Patricia's favorite contagion. By evening, we'd rebuilt a new interface, my own dashboard linked to the mirrored servers. I could see what she saw, every flicker of data across Silver Bay. Except now, she didn't know I was watching back. At exactly 7 p.m., a live notification popped up. HOA Town Hall broadcast. Topic: Digital integrity and community trust. Of course she'd go live. The officer of rules always performed when an audience was guaranteed. Henry looked at me. "You really want to hijack her feed?" "She hijacked our lives," I said. "Fair trade." We set up the intercept. All it required was timing. Wait until she reached the part where she called me unstable, then override her broadcast with uncut footage from her own network. When the stream began, Patricia Langford appeared in her usual crimson suit, posture perfect, expression rehearsed. "Our systems exist to protect, not to pry," she declared, voice smooth and measured. "Certain individuals have twisted noble intentions into conspiracies." The enforcer in crimson glanced at the teleprompter, then directly at the camera. "Mark Graves, the former sheriff, compromised community safety with unauthorized hacking." I hit execute. Her feed froze, then flickered. The audience watched as new footage replaced her image. Patricia in the HOA security office weeks earlier, commanding, "Block entry, unauthorized emergency vehicle." The silence afterward was deafening. She tried to regain control. "This is manipulated media," she stammered, but her face drained of color. The footage looped again, louder, this time with timestamp, and her digital signature flashing underneath. Comments flooded the live chat. "She stopped the ambulance." "That's murder." "Resign," Henry grinned. "You did it." "Not yet," I said. "She'll retaliate." And she did. Within minutes, every monitor in the diner glitched. A new message overlaid her frozen face. "Truth bends, power doesn't." PL. I looked at Henry. "She's going to torch the servers." He typed rapidly. "She's deploying a purge script. If she wipes those drives, everything, including your mirrored copy, goes offline. Can we isolate her command line? Only if we use her own access key." I smiled grimly. "Then give me her crown." We replaced her admin hash with mine, an ironic coronation. The tyrant in heels had taught me how to weaponize compliance. Within seconds, the purge froze. A single line appeared across the screen. "Administrator privileges revoked." Henry exhaled. "You outranked her?" "No," I said quietly. "I just spoke her language." Outside, thunder rolled over Silver Bay, though the sky was clear. It wasn't weather. It was power lines shorting as her servers shut down, one by one. For the first time, Patricia Langford's world went silent. But victory didn't feel like peace. It felt like a pause before something worse. Because queens don't disappear. They regroup. And I knew she wasn't done with me yet. 2 days after the broadcast, the headlines shifted again. Just like she wanted. "Former sheriff under investigation for data breach." I could almost hear Patricia Langford smiling through the ink. The board chair had lost the digital war, but regained her throne in print. She'd filed a civil injunction claiming my data leak endangered community safety. It was absurd. She'd built the surveillance herself, but absurdity thrived in paperwork. Henry slammed the newspaper on my desk. "She's using the same footage you exposed against you." "She's weaponizing evidence," I said. "That's her specialty." He gestured to the article. "Court dates in 48 hours. You going?" I nodded. "If she wants an audience, I'll give her one." Outside, Silver Bay looked cleaner than it had in months. Too clean. Fresh banners fluttered from lampposts. "Support integrity. Stand with the HOA." The enforcer in crimson had rebuilt her cult in daylight. When I entered the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters called my name, demanding statements. I didn't answer. The courtroom itself felt colder than usual, polished, symmetrical, a temple built for illusion. Patricia Langford sat at the front, immaculate as ever, a crimson blazer perfectly pressed, one leg crossed over the other. She looked more like a CEO at a merger meeting than a defendant in a fraud inquiry. Her attorney whispered something. She smiled, slow and confident. The clipboard queen wasn't there to defend herself. She was there to perform. The judge entered. "All rise." We did. Her lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client seeks an immediate restraining order, preventing Mr. Graves from disseminating false digital material that misrepresents her administrative actions." False. Misrepresents. Every word polished like glass. When it was my turn, I kept it short. "Your Honor, I can verify every frame of that video through metadata. The system she controlled documented its own crime." The tyrant in heels leaned forward, voice low but audible. "And who wrote that system, Sheriff?" "I did." She smirked. "Then who's responsible when it malfunctions?" That single sentence rippled through the room. She'd twisted guilt into authorship, made me the mechanic of my own tragedy. The judge raised a brow. "Mr. Graves, is that accurate?" I met his eyes. "The malfunction didn't kill my daughter. A command did." Gasps scattered through the benches. Patricia didn't flinch. She thrived on the drama of precision. During recess, I found Laura Chen waiting in the corridor, hair tied back, face pale. "They subpoenaed my statement," she said. "She's trying to discredit it." "How?" "She's claiming I acted out of remorse, not fact. That I fabricated timestamps to frame her." I exhaled. "She's not defending herself. She's erasing you." Laura shook her head. "I won't let her. I still have the backup drive, the one she doesn't know about." "Keep it hidden," I said, "until we need it." Back in court, Patricia resumed her slow dismantling of truth. The officer of rules pointed to charts, graphs, and statements that looked legitimate until you realized they were copies of the same document layered to appear different. Optical fraud at its finest. When the judge recessed for lunch, Henry approached me. "She's winning again," he muttered. "She's making you look unstable." "Good," I said. "Let her get comfortable." That night, I met Laura at the substation where it all began. Rain slicked the pavement, reflecting the emergency lights still left from the raid. She handed me the drive. "This has her unedited internal log," she said. "It records the order sequence: command, confirmation, execution." I loaded it on my laptop. The screen glowed with one line of text. User PL. "Confirm lethal deterrent trigger override." My stomach dropped. She called it lethal. Laura's eyes filled. She knew. We decided to hold until morning, time to verify through forensic audit. But Patricia moved first. At dawn, the HOA website updated. Mark Graves under federal cyber investigation, pending arrest. Henry burst through my door, panting. "She planted evidence in your mirror server. They think you tampered with classified state files." The clipboard queen had flipped the chessboard again. I sat down, steadying my breath. "She wants me cornered. Fine." Laura looked terrified. "What are you going to do?" "End the game," she frowned. "How?" "By turning her own weapon live." I opened the feed interface, typed a single command, and hit stream. Every HOA camera, every doorbell, every security hub in Silver Bay lit up on public broadcast. For the first time, the community saw everything Patricia Langford ever recorded, unedited, uncut, unfiltered, and somewhere, behind her legal armor, I knew she was watching too. This time, silence wouldn't save her. By sunrise, Silver Bay wasn't just watching anymore, it was judging. Every driveway had turned into a debate stage, every neighbor an armchair juror. Patricia Langford's statement hit the morning news. Sheriff Mark Graves illegally exposed residents' private footage. My office is cooperating with federal investigators. She said it with her usual serenity. No rage, no cracks, just that chilling calm that made the lie feel like law. Henry burst into my kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes. "They froze your accounts." She filed an emergency injunction through a federal cybercrime unit she helped fund. Of course she did. The board chair never built walls. She built mazes. "Let her enjoy the noise," I said, sipping black coffee that tasted like ash. "When this is over, it'll be her own voice that buries her." He frowned. "You still have a plan?" I nodded. "A live demonstration, tonight." Outside, reporters swarmed the cul-de-sac, shouting questions. I stepped past them without a word, heading to my truck. On the hood sat a single crimson envelope. Inside, a typed note. "You wanted exposure. Let's both be seen." PL. The enforcer in crimson wasn't bluffing. That afternoon, the HOA issued a mass email inviting every resident to a community integrity forum. The invitation came with legal disclaimers and one unspoken threat. Attendance was strongly encouraged. By dusk, the recreation hall looked like a courtroom made of glass. Spotlights glared from every angle. Patricia Langford stood at the center, immaculate in a dark red suit, the clipboard queen in her purest habitat. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, microphone poised like a gavel, "our safety was violated by someone we trusted. Tonight, transparency begins with truth." Her gaze locked on me. "Sheriff Graves, you've been invited to respond." I stepped forward, hands steady though my pulse thundered. "Transparency works both ways, Patricia." The crowd murmured. She tilted her head. "Then please, show them what you've done." Behind her, Two massive screens lit up. Footage of me breaking into the substation, of Laura Chen handing me the flash drive, of servers sparking as alarms blared. Out of context, it looked like sabotage. The tyrant in heels smiled. You see, a man blinded by vengeance, destroying what he couldn't control. I let her monologue continue. She was digging her own pit. When she paused for breath, I spoke. That footage came from your system. You recorded your own crimes. She laughed softly. Proof? I raised my phone. You forgot one feed. The overhead projector flickered again. A new video appeared, taken from her private office camera. It showed her signing the lethal deterrent override, time-stamped, audio intact. Gasps erupted. She froze. That's impossible, she whispered. Henry's voice carried from the back. The officer of rules forgot her own rule, redundancy. Your backup system stored every command you ever gave. Patricia's face drained of color. You hacked me. No, I said. You taught me. Her eyes darted toward the exits. Two guards blocked them. The air thickened with silence. Then she snapped. You think this makes you righteous? You paraded your grief to destroy order. Order? I stepped closer. My daughter's death wasn't order. It was convenience. The crowd erupted again, some shouting, some crying. Patricia slammed her palm on the podium. You'll regret this, she hissed. Maybe, I said, but not tonight. Police lights flared outside. Federal agents entered, badges raised. One of them nodded toward me, then turned to her. Patricia Langford, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, data falsification, and misuse of municipal infrastructure. She didn't resist. She simply straightened her blazer, regaining the poise of the clipboard queen. You think you've won, she said as they cuffed her. But this neighborhood worships structure. Without me, it will devour itself. As they led her past, she whispered near my ear, You can't fix chaos with truth. I watched her disappear into flashing red-blue light. No, I murmured, but you can stop it from wearing heels. The hall emptied in stunned silence. Outside, rain began to fall, finally breaking the drought Patricia Langford once called maintenance weather. For the first time in months, Silver Bay felt human again. But I knew better. Empires like hers don't die in the dark. They leave embers, waiting for oxygen. The courthouse steps looked like a movie set. Cameras stacked shoulder high, rain glistening off microphones, 100 voices feeding on tension. For most people, Patricia Langford's arrest was justice. For her, it was only an intermission. By mid-morning, the county press office announced a live hearing. Langford vs. Community Board, emergency statement. The enforcer in crimson had demanded the floor, and the judge, likely under political pressure, granted it. Inside, the air felt electrically charged. Every seat filled with neighbors, journalists, and officials who once bowed to her. Henry sat beside me, whispering, She's not here to defend herself. She's here to rewrite the ending. When the bailiff called her name, Patricia Langford entered in handcuffs, escorted by deputies, but still radiating command. Even in custody, the clipboard queen owned the room. Her blazer was gone, replaced by a beige detention jacket, yet somehow she made it look like uniformed authority. She approached the stand with measured grace. Your Honor, she began, I won't waste this court's time with excuses. I came to speak for Silver Bay. The judge gestured. Proceed. Patricia's voice flowed calm and steady. What happened was tragic. A misunderstanding born from fear and poor communication. I acted under protocols approved by the board. The so-called evidence, selectively edited, maliciously distributed, has turned neighbors into enemies. The officer of rules turned toward the gallery, eyes gleaming. Fear divides, order unites. Without structure, you'll destroy yourselves. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, half doubt, half sympathy. She was still hypnotizing them, even chained. I rose. She's right about one thing. Fear divides, and she built her kingdom out of it. The room fell silent. Patricia smiled faintly. Sheriff Graves, she said softly, grief can be blinding. It makes good men cruel. I walked closer to the front. You think I'm cruel because I exposed you? No, she replied. Because you forgot the cost of control. You tried to replace tyranny with chaos. She knew exactly how to thread her poison. Not through lies, but half-truths wrapped in empathy. The judge cut in. "Sheriff Graves, please keep remarks directed to the court." "Then I'll direct this to everyone," I said, turning to the audience. "She claims order, but order without accountability is corruption. She used rules to hide murder behind paperwork." Patricia Langford straightened. Big words from a man who hacked public infrastructure. I met her eyes. "Infrastructure you weaponized, against a 5-year-old. A gasp cracked the room. The tyrant in heels finally faltered, her knuckles whitened against the table. "That was an accident," she said, voice trembling. Henry stood. "Then why the override command labeled lethal deterrent?" She froze. The screens behind the bench lit up. The state's forensic team had verified the final file. Her digital signature glowed beneath the words, "Confirm lethal deterrent trigger override." The crowd erupted, some shouting, some crying. Patricia whispered, almost to herself, "That line was never supposed to exist." The judge slammed the gavel. "Order." But order was long gone. The clipboard queen stared at me, eyes wild now. "You think this redeems you? Justice is just another illusion, Sheriff. People don't want truth. They want peace, even if it's bought with silence." I stepped forward. "Then maybe it's time they remember the difference." Outside, thunder cracked. The storm that had been threatening all morning, finally breaking. The officer of rules slumped as deputies guided her away. But she twisted once more, voice sharp as a knife. "Mark Graves, you'll still lose. When this town forgets my name, they'll come for you next." I didn't answer. Some victories don't roar. They breathe. As the doors closed behind her, the courtroom lights flickered, a faint echo from her failing network, dying like a pulse fading from a machine. Reporters rushed forward, microphones raised. I ignored them. Laura Chen placed a trembling hand on my arm. "You did it," she whispered. I shook my head. "No, we did." And she made sure everyone saw it. Outside, the storm poured over Silver Bay, washing away the last traces of crimson banners from the streets. For the first time in a year, I heard children laughing from the park. Maybe order could be rebuilt, not by fear, not by control, but by remembering who we lost. It rained through the night, the kind that washes noise off the world. By dawn, Silver Bay looked clean again, too clean, like a wound stitched but not yet healed. Patricia Langford's arrest had dominated every channel. Some networks called her a fallen administrator, others a misunderstood visionary. But to the people who lived under her rule, she was still the tyrant in heels. A name whispered like both curse and warning. I watched the coverage. From my porch, coffee gone cold in my hands. Across the street, neighbors were talking again, tentatively at first, then louder, like people remembering how to breathe. Children played near the sidewalks. Someone laughed. It had been months since laughter didn't sound like defiance. Henry joined me, his arm in a sling from that final scuffle at the feed relay. "Never thought peace would sound this weird," he said. "Peace isn't quiet," I replied. "It's what you hear after the shouting stops." He nodded toward the TV mounted by the window. "The governor's holding a statement in 20 minutes. When it aired, the message was short but seismic. State oversight will replace the HOA board of Silver Bay until further notice. All previous members are barred from community governance. For the first time, the board chair had been stripped of her throne. Patricia Langford didn't appear in court again. Rumor said she'd been transferred to a federal holding facility pending trial. Yet somehow, her presence lingered. The officer of rules who built a religion out of red tape and left it humming in every security camera and archive file. That afternoon, I returned to the community pool. The water glimmered under weak sunlight, calm, indifferent. This was where it ended, and where everything had begun. I stood at the edge, replaying that single, shattering instant. The shout, the flash, the silence. Every time I blinked, I saw my daughter's shoes floating on the surface, pink, weightless, untied. Laura Chen arrived quietly, carrying a folder. "Final audit report," she said. They confirmed everything. Langford modified emergency response permissions herself. I nodded. "Justice doesn't bring her back." "No," Laura whispered, "but it stops the next Patricia from rising." Her words settled like rain on concrete, soft, inevitable. Later, Henry joined us. He dropped a small box into my hand. A memory chip from the HOA mainframe. I wiped the rest, he said. This one holds the last log. Do you want it destroyed? I hesitated, then slid it into my pocket. Not yet. People need reminders. The clipboard queen once said fear was the glue of order. She was wrong. It's memory. Memory keeps us honest. As evening fell, Silver Bay gathered for the first town meeting without the HOA. No podiums, no fines. Just folding chairs under string lights near the cul-de-sac. An elderly neighbor spoke first. We forgot we own this place, she said. Not her. Applause followed, uneven, raw, real. When they asked me to speak, I kept it simple. Rules matter, I told them. But they're not meant to protect power. They're meant to protect people. Remember that. And remember what happens when we forget. In the back row, a woman whispered, she thought she'd live forever through order. I answered quietly. Order isn't legacy. Decency is. After the meeting, I walked, home beneath the first clear sky in months. The pool lights reflected off puddles, forming tiny halos on the asphalt. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Not threatening, just reminding. Inside, I uploaded one final post to the old HOA page, the same one she'd once ruled like a kingdom. Caption, justice isn't loud, it's patient. Then I closed the laptop and let the silence fill what used to be fear. If you've ever stood up to power, if you've ever faced someone who hid cruelty behind rules, you already know the cost of truth. It's heavy, but it's worth carrying. And if you want more stories of homeowners standing up to HOA tyranny, hit subscribe right now. Share your story in the comments and let me know where you're watching from. Because sometimes the fight doesn't end in court. Sometimes it ends when the world finally listens.